Hello and welcome to the Fatpants podcast. Aspiring fish and chips connoisseur, you can call me Pants.
And I'm Slacky, lover of all international foods like Tex-Mex and Cajun.
What lies ahead is the final battleground for all food disputes, big and small. No matter the state, the culture, or the country, there's one thing that everyone understands, and that is Fatpants. All right, Slacky, today we have a very special guest with us, Antarctic Wildlife, Eladio himself.
Hello.
Welcome on, Eladio.
Woo-woo.
Nice to be here.
Happy to have you. We brought you in specifically because today we're going to be going over an array of international foods, and we figured who else but someone who just experienced American food in its truest form recently, as well as somebody versed in the international foods we're going to talk about. The first thing that I want to dive into, Slacky was kind enough to pull together an assortment of both savory and sweet British foods for you in a tier list form. We're going to go through a few of these things just to see how this tier list stacks up to an actual opinion of somebody who eats these foods regularly.
A genuine British.
Yes. So the first one on the list, there's a lot. I'm starting at the bottom and I'm moving my way up.
So, as in like highest ranking?
No, these are the worst ones coming at
worst
you
ones.
first.
Okay, go to the best. Okay.
So in basically what the list says is it says literally crap tier of British foods. And
That's
we
a
just
very
need,
British tier.
basically, yes.
Yeah,
we needed a Brit's opinion on this. Go ahead, Dan.
Okay.
So I'm gonna pick two from the crap tier list. The first one being black pudding.
What on earth is black? Oh, okay. Yeah.
There it is.
Yeah,
Realization.
okay. Yeah, black pudding is terrible. Yeah.
And the other one being jellied eels.
So jellied eels is a thing from I think like the 70s or 80s.
Okay.
And it was the kind of food that you would go and get while you're at the beach. And it's one of those things that when you went on like a budget holiday, like a budget domestic holiday, you would go to a destination like, I don't know, Blackpool or Weymouth or something like that. Neither of those places sound particularly great, right?
Not really.
And you'd be right. You'd be right to think like it's a very budget conscious holiday destination, and jellied eels were something you bought there. I've never tried them, never want to try them. They sound awful.
That's fair.
Yeah, I think it's a very dated thing. I don't think it's the sort of thing that you would be able to find easily now.
According to the recipe that I have here, the dish consists of chopped eels boiled in a spiced stock that's allowed to cool and set, forming a jelly. So, Pants, this is right up your alley with Jello and eels, right?
I think you have misinterpreted my love for things inside Jello that are not Jello.
It's also one of those.
It sounds absolutely disgusting, to be honest.
Yeah, no, it's not good. It's not. It doesn't sound good. I can't imagine it tastes particularly good. I think there's probably a reason why it's one of those things that you associate with beach food from 30 years ago. And yeah, I've never been in a position where I could try them,
Sure.
even if I really wanted to. So,
and that's fair.
And I've been on beach holidays before, so I've been on those like cheap domestic beach holidays.
Sure, so
I've never been able to.
You're a certified beach holiday expert.
Unfortunately, yes.
Okay.
Unfortunately, yes.
Hey, you know what? It beats no holidays.
All
right, fair enough.
Yeah.
So I have.
But we need one thing. We need to touch back on black pudding real quick. Have you tried black pudding before, Eladio?
I have tried it once, and it was so long ago I couldn't begin to describe the taste of it. Black pudding's just it's essentially just congealed blood, isn't it?
It's made
I believe
from
so, yeah.
pork and beef blood with pork
Yeah.
fat and oats and barley and stuff.
It's not the worst. Like, it's definitely not the worst. It's also definitely not the best. It's just it is a thing. Like it's something that's typically part of a traditional English breakfast, but it's the kind of thing that you would expect to see left on the plate afterwards.
Sure.
Like, it's not the highlight, it's more of an accessory. It's kind of like if you were to have that, you know, that like little bit of salad that they put on the side of like your, I don't know, whatever dish you can think of. Like, they put a little bit of salad, but it's generally just for appearances, right?
Garnish.
Like, nobody eats the salad.
Yeah, garnish is the word you're looking for.
Black pudding is the garnish to a full English breakfast, essentially. I feel I don't feel like anybody actually eats it or enjoys eating it. It's just a thing that is part of that dish.
Okay.
It's there for appearances, I feel.
What you got next, Pants?
So I have a bone to pick with this tier list, because in the crap tier is steak and kidney pudding, but in the low tier, which is only slightly above, is steak and kidney pie. I have a question on what the difference is between a pudding and a pie, and I'll take any information on that.
So a steak and kidney pudding, I believe, is made in a pressure cooker.
Okay.
I think I'm not 100% on this, but I believe the difference is that steak and kidney pudding is made in a pressure cooker, and steak and kidney pie is made in like an oven.
Okay, that makes sense. I can see how those are two different things. But the actual thing in this low tier that I want to talk about is the infamous Scotch egg. I believe in our first episode we talked about armadillo eggs, and I know Eladio, I know we've talked about armadillo eggs at least once, where a jalapeno pepper stuffed with cheese, then wrapped in sausage and smoked, and then wrapped in bacon and then grilled and smoked, etc. Not quite the same as a Scotch egg, a very Americanized version. But where do you sit with Scotch eggs?
Scotch eggs are something which I haven't eaten a whole lot of. They are great though. They are. I haven't gotten the opportunity to eat them a lot. Like, it's one of those like foods that you see them in supermarkets and like deli sections all the time, and it's just one of those things they're not like the sort of thing that you have with like your lunch. It's kind of like a snack food, I guess.
Okay.
But it's not like my snack of choice, so I don't ever really get to eat it.
Sure, you don't have.
They're definitely good.
You
like
just don't have a tray of Scotch eggs sitting waiting.
No.
I would probably liken it to something similar to like in America where we have deviled eggs, where it's kind of like an accessory. It's like a snack food, like what Eladio was saying, versus like this is not a full meal kind of thing. This is like an hors d'oeuvre.
I just want to point out, this is you have a 100% including deviled eggs in this podcast ratio right now. This is every single episode. You're like, it's kind of like deviled eggs. And nobody likes deviled eggs. And by that, I mean everybody but me likes deviled eggs.
That's 100% true. Yeah, because deviled eggs are great.
No. Anyway, Slack, if you want to pick something from the mid tier to go over.
Mid tier. Yeah, very mid. What's a Welsh rarebit? Is that what I'm seeing?
I think you just made that up.
No, so that's on here. That just
Welsh rarebit.
From the picture, it looks like it might just be like some kind of sandwich based something or other. I would have picked like, I don't know, a normal thing on this list. Like toad in the hole.
Welsh rabbit. I have never heard of Welsh rabbit.
Welsh rarebit. All right. Well,
no, that is not something I'm familiar with.
Toad in the hole.
Yes, fantastic. Actually,
what is that?
Incredibly good. Toad in the hole is, imagine if you replace sausage and mash with pudding batter. Like the mash you replace with pudding batter. That's essentially what Toad in the hole is.
Okay, so is it like custardy?
No. Have you when I say pudding batter, have you ever eaten Yorkshire puddings?
No.
See, here's
So
the problem. You're saying pudding, and our brain is immediately going to
going to
chocolate.
sweets.
Yeah,
Yeah,
like
okay.
I'm like, I've had a pudding pack.
So Yorkshire puddings are made with flour, eggs, and water, or you can use milk in place of water.
Okay.
It's a thing which is if you're ever in the UK and you have a roast dinner, you will have Yorkshire puddings. It's an accessory to a roast dinner. They're fantastic with gravy and I don't know. Yeah, I guess it's the same thing as the steak and kidney pudding, isn't it? I think pudding is a thing which we definitely use to describe food that isn't necessarily desserts.
Okay.
But yeah, Yorkshire puddings are an accessory to roast dinners. It's a staple of them, and good Yorkshire puddings are fantastic.
I'm going to skip a line real fast because in your description of Toad in the Hole, you mentioned one thing in the top tier and two things in God tier.
Okay.
The sausage and mash is in top tier.
Yes.
Yeah.
I understand what that is. That's a pretty straightforward concept.
That should be God. That should be God tier, in my opinion.
It feels it feels like a basic thing. Like it's not really showy. I think putting it compared with cottage pie and shepherd's pie, fair. Those are both delicious. But in God tier, Yorkshire puddings, and then it's listed as a Sunday roast.
Yes.
Same deal. They're both on there right next to each other.
Good.
Things that I don't think belong in God tier on this list. Bacon sandwich. That's the dumbest. That's so dumb.
Incorrect. So I'm going to tell you why after I've touched on Toad in the Hole. The reason why I don't think Toad in the Hole belongs in the tier category it's in is Toad in the Hole is one of those dishes that is very associated with like wartime food, you know? Like it's something it's usually made with sausages, but I think you can use like any meat in it, and obviously, you know, batter, Yorkshire pudding batter is very cheap to make. Like it's extremely cheap to make. Like it's basically just eggs, water, and flour. Like it's super cheap.
Sure.
But it's really, really good.
So,
like it's a really, really good dish. I would probably rate it alongside sausage and mash. Like
okay,
it's
so
that good.
You would move it up a tier from mid tier to top tier.
Yeah, I wouldn't say it's God tier, but it's definitely top tier as far as British, and it's very British as well. Like Toad in the Hole is a very British thing, and I feel like Yorkshire pudding and Yorkshire pudding related dishes are also very English. So Toad in the Hole is up there. Like it's really good. If you can, it's really cheap to make. It's very easy to make as well. You literally just put, you know, you put whatever meat you've got into a bunch of batter and you just put it in the oven. You know, it's very easy to make, very cheap to make, and yeah, it's really good.
Can't wait for Katie to make some Toad in the Hole for
Look,
you pants.
I think if I asked her, she would.
Oh,
you would love it as well. You would actually love it.
It sounds and looks delicious. But I need an explanation for why a bacon sandwich is considered God tier when it's bacon on bread, as far as I can tell.
That's enough said.
Yeah,
that's all you need.
I was going to say, have you eaten a bacon sandwich before?
Yeah, but it's not God tier, especially when and maybe it's just because I'm looking at the rest of the list, but bacon sandwich is right after full English breakfast and crumpets and fish and chips and Sunday roast, and all those things sound great and filling and enjoyable, and then this one is a bacon sandwich.
A bacon sandwich.
It's a very simple thing. Bacon sandwiches are something which it's so staple like everywhere. Like if you go to a football match, or if you go to I don't know, if you go to the fair, or if you go to, well, maybe not the fair. I don't know anyone who's eating bacon sandwiches at the fair, but if you go to like a football match or any kind of sports game really, or if you go to it's just a very simple thing you can eat. It tastes great. Like what's not to like?
That's fair.
To me, it looks like a deconstructed BLT.
But it's just the B.
Where it's literally instead of
it's just B. That's a B sandwich. That's it belongs in B tier. I think
sounds great.
I'm sure.
Right, but it's your logic that something has to be a complex meal to be a part of this,
No, I
like,
just think
to be good,
I think
because there's
comparatively,
definitely things.
and I also this is a list of classic British foods. We have bacon.
Yeah.
I would argue that bacon is not a canonically British food.
I mean, by that logic, then pizza isn't canonically Italian because
Wow.
Well, that's good
tomatoes
that we're
aren't from Italy.
rating British foods. Anyway, we're gonna
Roasted.
move over to the sweet, the sweet list.
Yes, please.
Yeah, turns out
Okay.
number one on the sweets list, pizza. Who knew? No, it's not pizza. Same deal. We're gonna start from the crap tier and move up. There's only one thing in crap tier, and it's a deep fried Mars bar.
Whoever made this list is out of their mind. Deep fried Mars bars are incredible. Like, they're as unhealthy as you'd imagine they would
it's just
be,
like a
but
deep fried like candy
they're
bar,
incredible.
right? Yeah, that
Right,
shouldn't be in,
like-
it shouldn't be in crap tier.
Again, what?
This is
No, not at all.
something that I can relate to growing up in Texas, where the Texas State Fair is literally let's take anything we could find
Oh, yeah.
and deep fry it and call it food, whether it's deep fried Coke or
The drink,
deep
just
fried
to-
Oreos. Like, it's just deep fried Mars bar. It sounds really good. I'm not familiar with the Mars bar. I guess that's more of a British candy bar. I know we have.
I'd
them
have
over
to
here in
see
America,
what
I
a
think
Mars bar is.
I would probably liken it to maybe like a Snickers.
If that
or
if
a
that's
Milky
accurate,
Way or
I've
something
had
like that.
a deep fried Snickers hunk, so I imagine it's not too far off.
Probably closer to Snickers minus the nuts,
Yeah,
I guess.
kind of what I was
Probably
thinking.
closer to a Snickers than a Milky Way. My experience with American confectionery is not that extensive. The foods, the chocolates that I had in America when I was there was not good.
I'm sure it was way too sweet.
Yes, no, it was just.
What did you have?
I had a Hershey's bar. I had
Mhm.
some like just very what I would consider to be very American chocolate. I guess Hershey's is
Sure.
is probably as American.
Hershey's and
as you can
Nestle
get,
are the
right?
top two. Yeah.
Yeah, like as you said, it's very, very sweet and it tastes very synthetic. I guess
Mhm.
that's the only way I can really
Yeah.
describe it. Typically, foods which taste very synthetic are not very
Mhm.
like good to me. Like, it, all I can think of is the ingredients that go into making that
Yeah,
flavor.
it's like
you
what
know?
made this
Like,
this like toxically sweet.
right?
We
Exactly.
touched on this in the last episode about sweets, where in America it's predominantly more sugar than it is chocolate, whereas over in England, for instance, it's definitely more chocolate put into it, which makes it
Right.
less sweet, more, I guess, chocolatey in a way. So yeah, I'm not surprised that when you come over here and try a Hershey bar, it's probably shockingly just way too sweet.
It's just it's designed for a different
Yeah.
palate, isn't it? So
Yes, yeah. Low tier pants, what you got?
All right, so looking at the low tier, there's nothing in the low tier that really like jumps out at me as like a super important or valuable thing. Like Christmas pudding looks pretty standard as a fruit cake.
yeah, I think the tier of Christmas pudding really depends on whether you like Christmas pudding or not. You know, like Christmas pudding is good, but
We'd be remiss if we didn't touch on one of the things in the low tier category here, pants, with some of the people who listen. Welsh cakes.
Oh yeah, Welsh
You
cakes.
familiar with Welsh cakes?
I am not. No.
Okay.
It doesn't look
Well,
like
what-
anything.
We'll ask
what
some
is-
of our Welsh
what
friends.
What constitutes a Welsh cake? It sounds depressing. Like, it
It
doesn't
looks
sound
depressing.
like it's a
I'm
good
not
food.
gonna lie to you. It looks pretty depressing.
I'm going to look this up. Let's say.
Let's see.
So Welsh cakes, it looks like it's kind of like scones.
It looks like it almost, yeah.
Like scones, yeah.
Yes,
Which
it does.
are
It's like a
great,
flat-
yeah.
It's like a dried flat scone
Mm.
or
So,
scone.
I'm
in
I'm
America.
team scone, just for the record.
Okay.
I'm just throwing it out there. I wasn't gonna say it, but then you said scone, and I went, well, there's an e at the end.
Well, I'm British, so
That's
I
right.
feel like I'm the authority on this.
Mm.
And if I'm incorrect, then so be it.
I'm curious as to another thing on the low tier here. What is spotted dick?
I think that's just another like we're adults here.
I think that's the doctor's appointment, Slacky, honestly.
But isn't that just
Oh, no.
another like fruitcake styled thing?
yeah, it's like a steamed pudding. Like it's
What's up with these names?
We do have some very interesting
I
names
was actually just
for
commenting
foods. Yeah.
earlier today on British snack foods being one of my favorite things because the names are just so out of nowhere. And I had
Yeah.
100%.
I had made up a snack food called Sneaky Jims, and I thought that sounded pretty believable. Like it was like, oh, it's some like onion flavored Sneaky Jims, brand new flavor. I was like, yeah, okay, I would believe that.
Wait, did you
So
say
spotted.
onion flavored?
Yeah, they're onion flavored.
Gross.
So yeah, spotted dick is a pudding, which again it's made with suet. It's kind of like, I guess it's kind of similar in that regard to steak and kidney pudding. It's made with suet, steam it. It's again, it's not. I don't think it's like the sort of thing that is really in modern British culture, food culture. I think it's one of those dishes that is very traditional. A lot of these steamed suet kind of puddings, again, they're often associated with like wartime food.
That makes sense.
Yeah, I'm not sure what the origins of it are or why it's called the way it is, but it's just another like fruit pudding, and you serve it with like custards.
Sure. There is something on the mid tier that, just from how it's been described to me in other conversations, I would probably put at God tier or close to.
Okay.
And that is banoffee pie.
Yes, banoffee pie is amazing. Yes, that is a god tier. That is
It
a god tier sweet.
Surprises me that something called a jam roly poly and banoffee pie sit in the same tier.
Jam roly
Wow.
polies are also good though.
They look good. But it's just like is it just like a thin pastry with jam in it?
It's
Or is
kind
it
of
cakier?
it's kind of like a Swiss roll. You know, like how you have a Swiss roll where it's like, you roll it. It's kind of like that,
Yeah.
except it's made with, jam and again, suet. I don't know, like it's kind of hard to describe, I guess. It's again, this is one of those like traditional British things from years and years ago. It's
Sure.
not really a part of it's in like the spotted dick kind of classic British puddings where they're kind of they're kind of traditional in name only. Like they're not really consumed a lot here. Like it's not the sort of thing that you would find in.
You're not going to the bakery and seeing a jam roly poly just sitting on the top shelf, like, ooh, look, buy this fresh baked.
No, it's kind of like it's kind of like one of those dishes like spotted dick in the sense that it's a obviously British thing. It's not necessarily bad. It's just it's not popular anymore. Like it's a classic. It's a classic.
Would you say it's something you're more likely to have like a grandparent or someone make, like, at it for like a family something or other?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's one of those old classic puddings, kind of like spotted dick. I guess the only surviving one really is like sticky toffee pudding is I think considered part of that like classical British pudding family that is very popular still. Like if you go to a pub or if you go to have Sunday roast anywhere, then sticky toffee pudding is one of those things that you would probably get afterwards, and that's something which is
Gotcha.
still enjoyed a lot. But yeah, jam roly polies you don't really see on the menu too much anymore.
It looks good. I think I would try one.
Yeah,
They
it's
look good.
definitely
Just on
not.
principle of
It's definitely not bad. No, if you like jam, then you'll probably like jam roly polies.
that makes sense. Slacky, you can take the top tier and the god tier over.
He just mentioned one item on the top tier, which was sticky toffee pudding,
Mhm.
and it sounds great. Like I love
It is,
toffee.
yeah.
It's one of my favorite things. And I assume it's basically a pudding style with toffee. Does it have like any other like chocolate or anything in it, or is it basically just toffee pudding?
No, it's essentially just toffee cake, and you typically serve it with ice cream, usually vanilla ice cream or you can serve it with like cream as well, or custard, or like several different things depending on what your fancy is. But I think it's best with ice cream. It's something which is very well loved. I feel like it's one of those things that you would find sticky toffee pudding in pretty much every pub or
every like standard restaurant environment.
Yeah, like it's just one of those things that you just find everywhere. Like it's very, very popular, and I think it's great. Like it's really, really good. But no, it is essentially just cake and toffee sauce. Yeah.
No problem with that at all.
I'm looking at one more thing on the top tier list. It's I'm assuming it's Eton or Eton mess.
Eton mess, yeah.
Yeah, it looks just like it's.
It just looks like strawberries and cream.
Berries and cream.
Yeah.
Yes, it's typically the kind of thing you eat at cricket matches. That's the only time I've seen Eton mess eaten. I'm not a big fan of berries myself in puddings, but if that's the kind of thing you like, then it's great. I think it's made with, I think it's just berries, cream, and meringue.
Yeah,
I think that's what it is. Am I getting that right?
Yeah, that's what I'm seeing here. Yeah, strawberries or other berries with meringue and whipped cream. Yeah.
Yes,
that sounds good.
Yeah, it's if you like all of those things, it's great. I'm personally not a huge fan of berries, so it's not like my favorite. But if that's the kind of thing you like, then yeah, it's really good.
That makes sense. As for the god tier, we already touched on one controversial choice, being the infamous scone.
Okay.
Oh, see, I said it your way and you said it my way that time. Anyway, all that aside, we already kind of talked about that. The other thing in the god tier category here is the Victoria sponge.
Okay.
To my knowledge, that's just a standard cake.
Yeah, it's a very it's a base. Like you can take a Victoria sponge and do a lot with it. So I feel it's kind of cheating to put it in the god tier because you can make really good cakes or you can make really bad cakes with it, like you can it's just a base. Like you can do whatever you want with it, really. Victoria sponge, it's by itself isn't really great, obviously. Just in the same way as you wouldn't, I don't know, you wouldn't eat mayonnaise on its own, right? But fair. It's great. It's great. It's a great base for other things.
Just compared cake to mayonnaise?
Yeah.
But it makes sense. It wasn't like a
weird.
That wasn't a sentence of I would rather eat a tablespoon of Hellman's instead of a slice of cake.
Right.
That was saying that they are both fundamentally components that go into better things.
Right. Exactly.
It looks just to me like traditional yellow cake, honestly. Like that we would make here in America.
I don't know what yellow cake is, but
it's just cake. It's just a plain vanilla cake.
Yeah. Well, that sounds like a Victoria sponge. Yeah. It sounds exactly the same. But yeah, you can take it wherever you want to go.
So I have a favorite thing that you consume that I want to talk about for just a second before we move on to our next big topic. And that is squash.
Yes. Yeah.
Squash is, of all the things that exist in all of Europe and its surrounding areas, the first thing that I want to try when I go over there is squash. Because I don't care if it's shit, honestly. If it's the worst thing I've ever had, that's going to be fine. I just need to know.
Okay. Well, first of all, it won't be shit because
I can't imagine it will.
It'll only be shit if you choose a flavor you wouldn't like,
So I'm gonna try and find. I think it's apple and blackcurrant because that sounds like the best one.
Yeah, it's very good. Yeah, it's the one we get every week. So
could you tell those who are unaware of what squash is, what it is, and why it's not a gourd?
It's not okay. So squash is concentrate in the sense that it's kind of like fruit juice, but concentrated down, and you add water to it, and it essentially turns into flavored water. You mix probably about 1 part squash or 1 part concentrate to 10 parts water. if you're looking to get the kind of ratio of squash to water. It's one of those things that is very cheap. I think like a 2 liter bottle of squash will probably run you about pound 50, something like that.
Wow.
And you'll get a lot out of it. Like a 2 liter, well, maybe not 2 liters. We buy it in 1.5 liter bottles. But I would say like it's a way for you to drink lots of water without actually drinking water, because water by itself is
Sure.
kind of boring unless it's really warm outside.
That's fair.
Stay hydrated.
Yeah,
kids.
it'll last a long time. It goes very far. It's a very cheap drink kind of thing. It's something that I personally started drinking a lot of in place of soda, and I think it's obviously much healthier than drinking juice, because juice has a lot of sugars added to it. Squash is basically all water, so yeah, it's a reasonably healthy way to stay hydrated and have it not be just straight water.
I have to laugh. I just looked up real quick just to see what like a US equivalent was, and one of the first things was like Kool-Aid.
Yeah.
And it's like, no, I refuse.
Those are not the same.
Kool-Aid is just nothing but sugar, honestly.
If I had to guess for us, like Mio is a really popular brand of like, it's just like concentrated water flavor.
Yeah.
It comes in a bottle, I don't know, that's half the size of a cell phone, and you just squirt a little bit of it into your water and go to town. That sounds like the closest.
A lot of the Mio stuff though is like sugar-free, so it's really super sweet in the sense that what it's trying to do is essentially what squash is trying to do. It's trying to flavor your water. It sounds to me that squash is made from juice, a very highly concentrated juice, versus like something like in America with Mio, which is basically just a non-sugar sweetened syrup that you mix in with your water, and it just flavors your water.
Yeah, no, squash is derived from juice. Yeah. But obviously it's got other stuff added to it, but for the most part, yeah, it's typically just,
and that's like
concentrated juice with sweeteners. And
like we can get concentrated juice, but that becomes more juice as opposed to just flavored water. So that's interesting. But that's super high on my list of like non-food things to try.
Yeah. It's I can't imagine a universe where you'll dislike it, because again, like it comes in so many different flavors. Like any kind of fruit juice you can think of, you can probably get it in a squash form.
Sure.
You're probably not going to dislike it.
Trying to branch out our podcast here, Pants, and maybe get some sponsors. Are there any like
I'd take a squash sponsor.
Would you recommend? I'm seeing online one called Robinson's, which is fairly like everywhere.
Yeah, Robinson's is a popular one. I'm gonna go ahead and dash your sponsorship opportunities with Robinson's by saying there's no difference between Robinson's and supermarket own brand squash. Like they're the same. They don't taste better. Brand. But it just has a different label on it,
But what does matter is that I could just get squash shipped to my house. I could have it tomorrow at my house, like in my hand, for like $20.
Yeah, it's rather expensive to get here.
I'm looking at a 3-pack, three of them for it's a quarter per fluid ounce. Realistically, that's not that expensive. I pay more than that for pretty much.
So what's the quantity you get for $20?
So it's 3 bottles that are about 34 ounces.
What is 34 ounces?
I'd have to convert that for you.
Non-freedoms.
About a liter. So it's 3 1-liter bottles.
Yeah.
For $20.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fuck.
There.
Like that. Yeah. We're getting gouged. But
I mean, you're paying like 15 times what it costs. At least, I would say.
But compared to
the British, this is how the British are getting back to the Americans.
But compared to the cost it would cost me to fly to a different country to pay the $1.50, it's fine. Will I do it? No, not yet. I want the authentic juice experience.
So I have told Katie in the past that I will send her a food parcel if you just send me the shipping and what you want.
Yeah, just dox yourself, Pants.
Oh yeah, I can do that. That's no problem.
I would also be remiss if we didn't bring up this other topic that's been discussed
Okay.
before in the past: lemonade.
Oh, I don't want to talk about the lemonade.
Oh, yes. That is a very interesting conversation and something, yeah, this is something which I did not know was I didn't even know this was a talking point. I thought lemonade was just the same everywhere, but it's
blows
not.
my mind and frustrates me to no end.
I understand why. It blows my mind, and I'm really confused as to why it is the way it is. So I think maybe we should give everybody the context of why this is such a polarizing topic.
I would just say this: Eladio, describe lemonade as you would drink it in the UK.
Lemonade is a carbonated lemon drink.
No.
It's
You said
fizzy.
Hold on, let him explain
Yeah.
it.
No, I mean that's the explanation. It's a soda.
Yeah, so your lemonade is effectively Sprite.
100%.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, Sprite and lemonade are synonymous with each other, yes.
That is wild.
Wild.
Because like lemonade, and now it's like you're in the South, so your lemonade is probably like 1 part lemon, 2 parts water, 12 parts sugar.
Sugar. 100%.
Yeah.
Our lemonade here is about 9 part lemon, 1 part sugar, 1 part water. Where we want
both sound pretty awful.
Yeah, like so Slacky's is
real
super sweet. Ours is incredibly acidic and harsh.
But just the idea that it's a carbonated beverage, number one, and then number two, it's basically Sprite.
No, it's not. It is Sprite.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not even basically
Sprite. Yeah, it is Sprite. That is what we would call.
That's crazy.
If you asked for a lemonade in a bar, they would probably give you Sprite.
So what would you have to ask for to get our lemon water juice?
You don't. You ask for lemon drink and you get looked at like a crazy person. Yeah.
Probably.
Lemon drink. Wild.
Lemon
Okay.
drink.
So, okay, I'm going to link this in with the squash thing, though. It sounds like if you want lemon drink, you just get lemon squash.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Probably, yeah.
That's about what it is, I think.
I would look at all of the squash flavors and then probably buy all of them, depending on.
Well, they're very cheap, so you could do that.
Yeah, unless I buy them here, like I'd have to fly over to a different country and then buy them for cheap. But that sounds more reasonable to me in some way than paying what you said as 15 times the cost. Now that makes me so disinterested in that, which is fair. Like I'd rather pay thousands of literal human dollars to fly to a different part of the world and pay $1 than I would to pay $20 and not have to put shoes on.
Just blame Amazon.
That's all I can do.
But yes, I learnt the difference between lemonades in regions, like the regional differences in lemonades, probably a couple of months ago.
Yeah.
So I'm in my late 20s and I'm just discovering this for the first time.
I'm in my 40s and I'm discovering this for the first time.
Did you learn that when you came to New York, or did you learn that prior to that?
I learned this from, I think it was Annie.
Okay.
We were in stream.
Who mentioned something about it. It was we just got onto the topic and then but it's really funny because I have definitely it's not like this is the first time I've talked about lemonade. I guess just like whenever I was talking about lemonade to Americans, they probably thought I was talking about the lemon drink, and if they were talking about lemonade, I thought they were just talking about, because this is one of the things that I think it's a very stereotypical American thing for like kids to sell lemonade, right?
Yeah, that's standard.
And my first thought when seeing this was, well, how the fuck are they carbonating it? Like do all these kids just have access to like carbonated, water? Like what? Like how are they doing this? How is this a cheap thing for kids to do?
Every kid on
all the rich kids
with their soda streams.
Yep.
Well, that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. Like, how is this a profitable thing? Like this surely can't be profitable for kids if they're selling it at like 10p a cup, But it turns out it's just an incredibly simplified drink, and it's not the same as lemonade at
We're-
all.
we're-
So it all makes sense now. Like all
Teaching
of those.
kids about the unfairness of business.
Yeah, that's
later
what
on
it
in
is.
life.
Like, unless you can afford a
Yeah.
soda stream at 8, you can't sell lemonade. I'm sorry.
Exactly.
Yeah, I mean, there's me thinking this was a harsh lesson in good old American capitalism, but no, it turns out I just was very wrong about what lemonade actually
That's
is.
very funny. All right, so let's move on from the tragedy that is lemonade, and I want to talk about something that I think we can all agree there's going to be a pretty big disparity on,
Yeah.
and that's going to be portion sizes.
Mm-hmm.
Eladio, with your still relatively recent trip to America, how substantial was the difference in your experience in general portion sizes?
I was expecting America to have larger portion sizes than we do in the UK, but I will just say that portion sizes in the UK, I feel, have been influenced a little bit by America, in the sense that if you go to get fast food, the portion sizes can be kind of big, I guess. Like, or at least more than what I would expect. But I was not prepared for American portion sizes. I was staying in an Airbnb in New York with Eladio, and we got, I think it was the England-France game and the World Cup. We were sitting down to watch it, so we thought, let's just order in some food. And so we got some food from this burger place, and the burgers were great. And I said, well, I'd quite like some fries with this. Like, I want some chips. So I had a look at them, what they had, and they had, the small, medium, large. I thought, small's between two people. Like,
It's not going to be enough. Sure.
Yeah.
So I go with the medium. A medium is what I would consider to be like an extra large here. And that medium thing of fries lasted for 2 days, and I made it a mission to finish those. Like I couldn't do it in one sitting, and it just blew my mind that could be a portion size for a singular person.
Yeah.
Like I couldn't understand it. Like I couldn't understand how one person would be able to finish that in one sitting.
Sure.
By itself, let alone have like a burger next to it,
Yeah, I was watching some stuff on this last night, and it's I wouldn't say it's documented, but portion size here in America versus like in the UK, it's about 100 to like 300% more when you're talking about fast food items.
Oh, 100%.
Like you get more soda, you get more French fries here in America versus like what they would serve in the UK. So I'm not surprised that when you order like I'm not sure where you guys ordered from. I'm assuming it was a fast food or
I think it was just a local burger place. Yeah.
Yeah. But I'm not surprised that when they say like, here's a medium French fry, they throw as many French fries they can in the bag and then a few more on top of it, because that's just how it is out here.
So just for some context, we as a kid, we had a fish and chip shop, which is I feel like a fairly staple thing around the UK. If you come to the UK, that's probably something you should experience, is going to a fish and chip shop. I feel like it's a pretty British thing. A chippy, yeah. And
see, I'm international, Pants.
Bro, I'm gonna put a chippy out of business. Day one, I'm gonna be like, I want it all, and they're gonna be like, well, okay.
So as a kid, we used to occasionally, like, we were pretty poor, growing up, so having food from the fish and chip shop was, something we'd do maybe once every fortnight or something, if we could. And the amount of chips I remember my mother bringing back for a family of 3, like me and my brother and herself, and like that was about the same as what I was given for my medium size. Like that, it was genuinely about the same portion. Like I think that the food that was given to me in New York could have fed 3 people, like easily. So it was very shocking to me, and it was just kind of like that across the board. Like portion sizes in general just seem to be much larger than I'm used to. Like, it was more food than I knew what to do with, you know.
Sure.
And what was strange to me was the price didn't really seem to reflect that either. So it still was relatively cheap to when you were ordering out food to have these gigantic portion sizes. So it's not even like you were paying more for this increased portion size. Like,
I feel like that's kind of a way where here in America, that's kind of their cheap way, I wouldn't say cheap, of giving value to a customer. You know,
Sure.
like we're still going to
Right.
keep the prices really low, but we're going to give you a shit ton of French fries on the side. So you're going to come back and order it again.
And this is something that because in a similar vein, I also grew up pretty poor, so I'm a lot more like cognizant of what the cost of things are. And there's definitely been days where I'm like, okay, well, if I go and get fast food, I can get this and this for $6, or I can get this as a meal in a bigger size for $5.50. And it's like, well, if I just get the bigger one and spend less money, like, okay, that makes sense to me. It's
does
so
make sense.
weird how, like you're saying, like these intentionally large portion sizes are almost being incentivized because they're cheaper. Like, pay less and get more is like, that's a no-brainer. But there's also no universe in which I need 6 gallons of French fries with my one burger. Like,
I think certain establishments, like when I was a kid growing up, like in the 80s and the 90s, were very proud of the moniker super size.
Yeah.
You know, where it was like, I mean, it's basically an American kind of staple when it comes to different places. And I feel like as I've gotten older and as our society here in America has gotten more cognizant of the fact that, hey, our kids are growing up more and more obese, maybe we should get away from the idea of more is what people need. You know, these places started, instead of selling supersize French fries, they were selling maybe a salad or maybe something like more healthy. And I feel like here in America, we've done better with getting away from that idea. But still, like you said, there are some places where when you order French fries, they give you the whole bag of
that's
French
Five
fries.
Guys. You can just say Five Guys.
Yeah.
Five Guys fucks. 1, 2.
It's also, you got to take a second mortgage out to pay for it.
That's
It's
true.
really expensive.
Five Guys is super expensive. Eladio, if you're not familiar with Five Guys, it's basically, it's like, hey, you want a burger? Okay, that'll be $4. And you're like, that's a steal. And they're like, hey, do you want us to cook that burger? $8. But then it's like, hey, do you want it on a bun? Extra $1. Cheese?
Right.
You can
So
have it.
Five Guys is the Ryanair of fast food places.
But
then
here's where they lose money. They go, okay, well, here's your one burger. That's $47. And then what they hand you is a tote bag that you could fit the Mona Lisa in, and it's full to the brim of fries that you didn't even ask for. And they're great. They're delicious fries, don't get me wrong. But they give you so many, and they're so fucking greasy that like you're getting singed through the bag. Your 5-gallon tote bag of freshly made fries is just staining everything.
I think it's really interesting that you chose the Mona Lisa as your unit for measurement because it's actually a very small painting.
It's very small, yeah.
Look, I just needed a bag that was bigger than a fast food bag, and then it was also a bag big enough to explain my point.
Yeah.
No, I know I'm nitpicking a lot here, but the Mona Lisa is disappointingly small.
Is it really?
It is, yes.
I'm gonna look this up now.
It is.
Yes.
As far as Renaissance paintings go, it's very underwhelming.
It would fall on the mid-tier category, Pants.
All right, hold on. So 2.5 feet by 1 foot 9 inches. That's not that small when you're considering the size of the bag that has to fit that, and then also using that bag to hold French fries.
But I'm saying in the context of Renaissance paintings, it is very small.
Oh, well, that's fine, because this is the context of French fries.
But you're using a painting to measure it.
Well, yeah, because if when I said my 5-gallon tote bag, does that mean anything to you?
No, but why not just use a big fucking painting to describe it instead of a
Because
small one?
I went to public school. I only know 3 paintings.
That's fair. That's fair. But yes, the Mona Lisa is disappointingly small. So I just thought it was funny that you used that to.
I just like the idea of y'all arguing over painting sizes. This is what our podcast has come to.
Yeah, no, it is really going on a big tangent, but
I was also very close. For the record, a 5-gallon bag is a little less than 2 feet by a little more than 1 feet. So I was not far off. I'll take it.
I feel you're really trying for this win here.
I want it. I want the win badly, and I'm taking it. This is a moral victory for Pants. Mark it on the board.
Okay. So, well, to go back on topic, one thing I was very surprised by actually, I wasn't really surprised by, but coming from a country where it's the opposite, where fast food and eating out is typically, well, not eating out, but ordering food in, I guess, is the better term. It's the same as eating out. If I were to order in, and if I was to order for, it would be like, getting a meal at a restaurant in terms of costs, right?
Yeah. Sure.
But I feel like the economics of ordering in America is so much cheaper than just like cooking food yourself. When I went to the supermarket and I was looking in like the, fresh produce and looking for ingredients to make food for myself, because I figured, hey, this is obviously what's going to be the cheapest avenue for me since I'm in New York and everything's expensive, So my train of thought was, okay, well, I'll save costs here by just making my own food. I can cook, I can do stuff with ingredients. I'll just do that. I'll go to the supermarket and do that. And it ended up being more expensive for me to do that and to make my own food and then to just order from a local burger place or order from a local fast food, place and have like a massive meal, So it doesn't surprise me in the slightest why there is, as you said, Slacky, like you have a generation that's just growing up obese because it's economically, you get more foods, you pay less for it, you don't have to put the effort into cooking, you don't have to clean up, you don't need to do any of that. Like it's so convenient and so economically viable that even if you're growing up, even if you're poor, then that's going to be what you can afford, right?
Oh yeah. So like just to frame it, for me to get, let's say, like a salad kit from the grocery store, basically a bag that just has some chopped lettuce in it already with whatever other lettuce adjacent pieces and like a little pouch of dressing and some other whatevers. Those are like $4 or so for one.
Yeah.
Maybe 3 something. For also 3 something, I can get a frozen pizza.
Yeah.
That I can have two meals of pizza, or I would say 2/3 of a meal of salad for the same $3.50 or so. And that's where the real issue comes in with what you're saying. It's like it's just so much cheaper here to eat bad food than it is to get actual ingredients and make real food. So the last topic that I want to go over before we wrap up today is some regional favorites. And I know these are going to be very different because we come from, all 3 of us come from very different areas. So my first one, and this is something that I learned is only like a pretty northeastern thing, but pork roll, not really super common other places. It's just like a low quality salty pork disc is the only thing I can describe it as, but it is just so goddamn good. It's a very salty cured meat. It's very similar to bacon in its characteristics, but it's definitely something unique to this area. I learned there's a debate that is not really a debate at this point. It's just a right side and everyone else, where some people here call it Taylor ham. That's a brand name, but it's pork roll. I don't know if you guys have any exposure to to pork roll?
I have not.
No, I haven't either. I mean, it sounds good. You had me at pork, but like,
Oh yeah.
I've not
The
had any exposure to it.
the next time you're in the Northeast, either of you, I will make sure that you get some. The real trick is to you almost have to like burn it a little bit to really get the full flavor. Like you want a little bit of that, like not quite char because it's still like a cured breakfast meat, but you wanna really burn it and get like a good crunchy part of it. What sort of regional favorites do you guys have for us?
One of my I don't know if it's a necessarily regional thing, but I'm just going to use the United Kingdom as
Yeah,
the
you can
region that I'm choosing from,
compared to
because I'm sure
us.
all of these things. Right.
That's fair. That's fair.
Shepherd's pie.
Ooh,
Have either of you eaten shepherd's pie before?
yes. I am a massive proponent of shepherd's pie. So good.
Okay. So shepherd's pie is fantastic. For anybody who doesn't know what shepherd's pie is, it is you make it with minced lamb, and you have like it's topped with like mashed potato, and you put like a layer of cheese on the top of it, or you can put a layer of cheese on top of it. You don't have to, but it's kind of nice with some cheese on top. And you bake it, and yeah, shepherd's pie is just great. Often you can make it with beef,
Isn't beef
which is
a cottage pie? That's the difference,
I
right?
was just about to say yes. Yeah, beef is cottage pie, and it's one of those things that really grinds my gears when people refer to that as shepherd's pie. They're different things, but they're the same thing. For all intents and purposes, they're the same thing. That you just use beef instead of lamb, but both of those things fantastic. Probably my favorite regional food.
Very good pick, I think.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
Potatoes. Anything with mashed potatoes in it, I'm 100% in.
So yeah, I would go with shepherd's pie for my my top British pick.
I think you're like, and this is where we were us saying before that like American cuisine is just everyone else's cuisine, but like fucked up a little bit. Our shepherd's pie traditionally, I think, is beef because beef is just a lot more appealing to a lot of people. Like from a taste perspective, I know a lot of people don't like lamb.
Interesting.
Because it's a gamier flavor.
I would have thought it would have also been an accessibility thing as well.
Too.
Like I imagine it probably would have been difficult to get lamb over there.
It's easier to get
more difficult,
like beef or chicken here in the States than to get lamb. Like lamb is traditionally more of a delicacy here in the States versus something where it's just more attainable, like beef or chicken. Honestly,
yeah, 100%.
You made a point of saying food that you have adopted from other cultures and made into your own. Chicken tikka masala.
I would do crimes for chicken tikka masala. That is not even a question. Katie makes that for us probably like once a month. Yeah. And the hardest part is finding garam masala.
Yeah.
In like here, because we live in the middle of nowhere, sort of. But like when we can find it, we just get like the biggest container we can get. That way we always have it like standing by and ready. But 100%. Slacky, have you ever had chicken tikka masala?
I can't say that I have, no.
Whoa, you are missing out.
It is very good. It's not something we actually make too often. We do make it, and if we do make it, we often get it in a jar. If you make it from scratch, it's incredible, and you definitely should do that. The problem is obviously not the kind of thing you're going to be eating all the time, so therefore it's kind of expensive to buy all the spices and things required to make it.
Sure.
It's got quite expensive ingredients. Like, it's not an expensive dish, but it's one of those things that you need quite a few spices and things to make it, and those individually are quite expensive, and you'll use a little bit of it and then it'll just sit in a cupboard, So it's the kind of thing you'll find in every single like Indian takeaway
it's
here, like ever. It's a national dish. Like it is. I'm pretty sure it is the national dish of the UK, chicken tikka masala.
Which
Which
that
might
that
sound strange,
in
but
in and of
And,
itself
and
is very funny
an
it is. Yeah.
for a lot of
Indian
reasons.
recipe.
Yeah.
Well, this is the funny thing. Like the common meme that I see going around is that England goes around to places like colonizing places like India and whatever, and they come back and they eat beans on toast. It's not true. Like chicken tikka masala is a dish created by I believe it was by a Bangladeshi restaurant owner. I think I could be wrong on that, but I'm pretty sure it originated from either people who came over from Bangladesh or India, and they created a dish for the British palate, and obviously, we can't handle spices as well as people on the subcontinent can, but it's fantastic. Like it's such a good dish, and I think that would be my top pick. But like you said, it's not something which has its roots in England. So
Sure.
while it's a British dish, it's like shepherd's pie has its roots in England,
Right.
whereas chicken tikka masala obviously doesn't.
But I think all things considered, I think you can consider that still a regional favorite. Contextually, it's one of the most
Right.
prominent
Yeah.
dishes where you are.
Yeah.
And that comes back to the argument of like, well, pizza's not from Italy. So it's like, okay, well, as it turns out, no one cares. Where something's from is a lot less important in this context. But Slacky, I cannot recommend enough. I think given your history of spice and spice related things, it's a very good dish for you because it's not spicy. It is well
No.
spiced. It has a lot of like aromatics and is a very rich, like deep flavor to it. But it's not going to blow out your taste buds or anything like that. Highly recommend.
I mean, yeah, the dish was literally created for people in England who can't deal with spicy food. So it's if you're not a massive fan of spicy food, then chicken tikka masala is definitely very good. It's not spicy at all. You can have it spicy, sure, but I think typically you wouldn't find anywhere that has spicy chicken tikka masala.
Sure. And if anyone knows where I can get some, just let me know. I'm a fiend for the spice. But Slacky, if you've got any good regional favorites cooked up, as long as it's not deviled egg. If you say deviled egg, I'm leaving this call right now.
I've already had my deviled egg allotment for the podcast.
But yeah, hit us with your favorite.
For me, regional favorite growing up in Texas, I would be remiss if I did not mention Tex-Mex food as a whole. Especially, specifically fajitas. I am a huge fan of fajitas the idea of you're just going to take a skirt steak or just some carne asada or some chicken and you're going to grill it. You're going to throw it on a skillet with bell peppers and onions, and basically it's just kind of like a make your own kind of like a taco with flour or corn tortillas, and you stack everything up into a tortilla, and it's one of my favorite foods as a whole. I love fajitas. I love Tex-Mex, and it will always be one of my favorites.
Fajitas are top tier.
Yeah.
In Chili's, top tier. Outside of Chili's, even better than top tier.
Right.
I think fajitas generally are such a fun. They're a fun thing to experience as someone who is like very food centric, because there's a lot going on. There's a lot of like extrasensory things outside of just like, ooh, this is food that goes in my mouth. It's like there's a whole look to it. There's the sound, the smell. You have so much going on with like fajitas as a dish that it hits all of your all your senses in a different way. And I personally like hand food a lot more, like things that I can eat more casually, because it just leads for a comfier feel.
Yeah.
Um,
I also like how very versatile it is as a food. Like, there's not one way to eat it. There's many different ways. Whether you can do beef and chicken, you can put cheese, you can do sour cream, guacamole, pico. All the different kind of however you want to load up your taco. Basically, it's a very easy meal to split with someone, even if you don't have very similar likes and when it comes to food, because it's like, hey, I'll eat this. If you don't want it, I'll eat this, that kind of thing. So it's one of, like I said, one of my favorites.
Yeah, I think I was going to add to it that it's just such an incredibly versatile food, and we have
Absolutely.
fajitas every week. Like, it's one of my fajitas goes crazy in this house. Like, we love fajitas.
Yeah.
It's funny because when we buy chicken, and we buy a big pack of chicken, and like 2/3 of it is for us and 1/3 of it is for Nebby, obviously. And
Obviously.
he he's quite happy with that arrangement, and yeah, we just shred it. And
it's not
it's
a
funny
bad
you say.
deal, honestly.
No, I mean we have fajitas, but me, myself and my partner, we both enjoy different things in our
Sure.
fajitas, but
Yeah.
because of the nature of it, we just come up, like, when we make it, we bring it upstairs, and we just have loads of different bowls, and then we just mix and match and load whatever, like you said, you just load whatever up you
Yeah.
want on your tortilla and go crazy with it. It's a fantastic dish.
That is going to be it for today. Eladio, thank you for joining us
Thank you for having me.
as our first
Yes.
guest. I am sure we will have you back at some point, unless you absolutely hated this, in which case, you already signed the waiver.
I only hated the Mona Lisa comparison to
Which
describe a
I'm-
large portion of something. That's the only thing I hated.
It was accurate to what I was going for. I'm putting that out.
No, it wasn't.
But it was. It was so accurate to my 5-gallon bag. If you've made it this far, thanks for listening. We'll be back next month with some unconventional food habits. This has been the Fatpants Podcast.